Have you ever heard of a Japanese martial art called Koppo? Neither karate, nor jujutsu, nor aikido? Literally translated, the word means method of bone. If you're a fan of fighting games, you might recognize it from Fatal Fury, where the character Andy Bogard is described as a practitioner of this very art. Although ancient texts mention its name, little is known about its concrete techniques, except that it was an unarmed fighting art of Chinese origin, or so the conventional view holds. However, one man challenged that narrative and revived Koppo as a Japanese-born martial art. That man was Horibe. We begin in Ryogoku, Tokyo, the sacred ground of sumo. The massive roof visible right in front of the train platform belongs to the sumo arena, and even the station walls are decorated with portraits of famous wrestlers. During a sumo tournament, the streets are lined with colorful banners praying for each Rikishi's victory, and huge wrestlers can be seen walking toward the station after their bouts. About a 5-minute walk from this area stands a small, quiet shrine. A shrine dedicated to Nominosukune, the deity of sumo. Now let's go back in time, to ancient Nara, long before the word samurai even existed. It was an age when strength itself was justice, and the human body was an object of faith. In those days, two men, Taima no Kehaya and Nominosukune, faced each other before the emperor. They kicked, punched, and struck. It was not the grappling style we know as sumo today, but a bare-handed fight for life and death. Later generations called this fierce duel the origin of sumo. Having killed Kehaya with a stomp, Nominosukune was enshrined as the god of sumo. Horibe declared, "That was the true beginning of Koppo." In other words, he rejected the Chinese origin theory and claimed that Koppo was a martial art born in Japan. According to Horibe's theory, it goes roughly like this. A few years after the Kehaya Nominosukune match, during the Nara period, a warrior named Otomo no Kamaro appeared. He was said to have mastered a secret technique called toshi, to pass through, not relying on brute strength, but striking in a way that penetrated the opponent's body. This method resembled what would later be known in Chinese martial arts as penetrating power. This ancient art was known as tegoi. But by imperial decree from Shiga Seirin, the striking techniques, kicking, thrusting, and punching, were banned from sumo. Thus, the old martial art tegoi vanished from sight, leaving only its name, Koppo, whispered quietly through the ages. At the end of the Heian period, there is a line in Fujiwara no Munetada's Chuyuki. Even if one excels at sumo, one must still practice Koppo, the method of bone. This phrase had long been interpreted as a metaphor, but Horibe insisted otherwise. Koppo was not a figurative term for the fundamentals of technique. It was the actual name of a martial art. He went on to say that Minamoto no Yoshimitsu revived the declining art of Koppo and passed it down to his descendants. Eventually, that lineage, he claimed, reached the Horibe family. "Our clan descends from Lord Yoshimitsu," Horibe declared, devoting himself to training as if carrying 1,000 years of lineage within his own body. He also said, "I inherited the techniques from my father, who served as a bodyguard to Tojo Hideki, and I succeeded as the 52nd head of the Koppo lineage, reforming the old art into a modern combat system I called Kenka-gei Koppo, the fighting art of Koppo." However, there is no historical evidence to support these claims. The traditions he spoke of were not recorded in history books, but existed only in the memories carried by his blood. Tokyo in the Showa era. Horibe studied under Sagawa Yukiyoshi, a renowned master of Daitoryu Aiki Jujutsu. In Daitoryu tradition, Minamoto no Yoshimitsu is often regarded as its founder. Since Horibe referred to Yoshimitsu as the man who had revived Koppo, it is possible that he sought out Daitoryu because it seemed to share roots with that ancient tradition. At times, Horibe had doubts about the philosophy and technical structure of his own martial art. But in Sagawa's dojo, considered the very heart of Aiki Jujutsu, he became convinced that what he had been pursuing was indeed rational and legitimate. Eventually, Horibe left Sagawa's dojo to establish a martial art of his own. Its first name was Kankotsu Jutsu, the art of bone transformation. Later, it evolved into Kankotsuken, the fist of bone transformation, and finally, he named it simply Koppo, the method of the bones. Koppo was neither jujutsu nor karate. It was striking, punching, kicking, breaking, and beyond that, locking joints, throwing and slamming the opponent while remaining standing. A fusion of atemi, striking vital points, and kuzushi, off-balancing. That was Horibe's Koppo. His dojo became a gathering place for young men, where nightly sessions of intense, realistic sparring took place. Horibe declared, "Koppo is not a martial art, it is Kenka-gei, the art of fighting." His Kenka-gei Koppo was neither a traditional Budo nor a competitive sport, but rather the adaptation of classical martial arts to the realities of street combat. In the 1980s, Japan was swept up in a martial arts boom. Television programs featured Koppo as a secret fighting art, or legendary Japanese martial art. Martial arts magazines enthusiastically ran repeated special issues proclaiming that Japan's ancient traditional fighting arts were superior, practical systems capable of handling all forms of combat. For a time, Koppo became a symbol of subculture. After the death of charismatic pro wrestler Rikidozan, Koppo found its way to the main eventers, Antonio Inoki, who famously fought Muhammad Ali in an MMA-style bout, and his disciples, such as Masakatsu Funaki and Jushin Thunder Liger, also trained in Koppo. Further reinforcing Horibe's claim of Koppo's practicality and boosting its notoriety. Honestly, when I first saw it, I lost my words. Funaki and Liger, in particular, applied elements of Koppo technique in their matches. Incidentally, Funaki later fought in an MMA match against Rickson Gracie but lost. People were captivated by Koppo, a martial art that seemed to carry the aura of ancient myth while offering realistic techniques capable of surviving real street fights in the modern world. In the 1990s, Japan entered the dawn of modern MMA. In November 1993, the first UFC was held, and Royce Gracie shocked the Japanese martial arts world by dominating with a long-forgotten art, jujutsu. That same month, Koppo held its first festival of Koppo. It showcased a revolutionary technical system completely different from conventional Japanese martial arts. The event caused a stir, with demonstrations so intense that even after opponents screamed or tapped out, techniques were not released. The style renamed itself Nihon Budoden Koppo, Japanese martial transmission Koppo. In 1994, Valetudo arrived in Japan from Brazil. The man who faced Rickson Gracie in the ring was Nishi, a student of Masahiko Kimura, the very man who once defeated Rickson's father, Helio Gracie. Nishi had achieved remarkable results in Daido-juku, a style of full-contact karate, and even before Valetudo arrived in Japan, he had already founded Wajutsu Kishukai, a martial arts dojo that integrated grappling and striking into a comprehensive fighting system. Among Japanese martial artists of the time, Nishi was perhaps the most suitable opponent for Rickson. However, the match ended in the first round. Afterward, under Nishi's leadership, Wajutsu Kishukai went on to produce numerous famous fighters, becoming one of the driving forces of Japan's mixed martial arts scene. From the second festival onward, Koppo introduced Mushazumo. The unique system once presented as a revolutionary traditional martial art faded away, replaced by a more MMA-oriented technical framework. In essence, Horibe overturned the very foundations of what he had long claimed to be ancient traditional techniques, reforming Koppo from the ground up to adapt to MMA. However, this radical transformation caused great confusion among his students. According to those who trained under him, the more faithfully a student had practiced the so-called traditional Koppo techniques, the less able they were to adapt to the new sparring rules. By contrast, those with a background in judo adapted quickly, and Horibe came to favor them. This led many to question, what was the Koppo we've been studying all this time? Thus, Koppo constantly changed form at the boundary between fact and legend. At the time, Japan did have comprehensive martial arts such as Nippon Kempo and Shorinji Kempo, but both were primarily striking arts. Meanwhile, judo, aikido, and sumo, all grappling arts focused on standing techniques, and karate, a striking art, were not designed for ground combat. Ground-based martial arts such as Kosen Judo or Koryu Jujutsu still existed, but had declined so severely, in number of practitioners, not in skill, that they were far from mainstream. Japanese martial artists who entered MMA tasted bitter defeat one after another. Their overconfidence in their own arts and lack of adaptation to MMA, especially to ground fighting, were the main reasons. Three years after the UFC shock in 1996, Horibe announced the lifting of the ban on interstyle competition. That August, two of Koppo's strongest disciples entered Valetudo from Japan's last bastion of traditional martial arts, and both lost.
He goes right to the takedown right in the middle. Both fighters trying to find the advantage. And Joe, what do you see right off the bat?
Right away, he's trying to get him in an arm lock, and he's trying to climb on his back here, Ned. He's almost has the arm bar, except he's got him outside the ring. So the referee could possibly stop this soon.
John, it looks like he's trying to use the ring rope for a little leverage right there.
That's right. He could do that for a little while, but not too long.
Some nice hits to the right to the face of Hiroshi by Danilo. Danilo goes right to the face, elbows to the head. This guy is putting out some punishment inside that ring.
Yes, Danilo is a striker, so it's his advantage to hit him, Oyama.
Okay, and most of those strikes right here were just on the top of the head, Ned, so they're going to be able to take that.
Again, it looks like he's using the ring rope to an advantage as leverage.
Right now, Ned, he's trying to put him in the triangle. It's all over.
as he goes right to the takedown right in the middle. Both fighters trying to find the advantage. And Joe, what do you see right off the bat?
Right away, he's trying to get him in an arm lock, and he's trying to climb on his back here, Ned. He almost has the armbar, except he's got him outside the ring. The referee could possibly stop this fight.
John, it looks like he's trying to use the ring rope for a little leverage right there.
That's right. He could do that for a little while, but not
Oh,
too
some
long.
nice hits to the right to the face of Hiroshi by Danilo. Danilo goes right to the face, elbows to the head. This guy is putting out some punishment inside that ring.
As Danilo is a striker, so it's his advantage to hit him. Oh, yeah.
Okay, and most of those strikes right here were just on the top of the head, Ned, so he can apparently be able to take that.
Again, it looks like he's using the ring rope to an advantage as leverage.
Koppo's defeats, coming at a time when it was featured monthly as the ultimate all-range traditional martial art, deeply disappointed the media and fans who had once supported the Koppo supremacy theory.
1 minute.
Coverage in martial arts magazines began to shrink thereafter. The major magazine Kakutsugi Sushin, Fighting Arts News, wrote, "We've devoted too many pages to Koppo. Today, public opinion of Koppo is extremely low. However, given that at the time no Japanese martial artists, regardless of background, were producing results in MMA, it seems unfair to completely dismiss Koppo based solely on those defeats. While Koppo could have hidden behind the veil of tradition and legend and avoided the MMA wave, it instead chose to confront it head-on, a stance that deserves recognition. Whether it truly qualifies as a traditional martial art remains questionable, but it cannot be said that its techniques were entirely impractical. In fact, in November of that same year, 1996, during a grappling match between Koppo practitioners and the prestigious MMA dojo Wajutsu Kishukai, which I mentioned, which would later produce Japan's most successful UFC fighter, Yushin Okami, a Koppo student with a judo background, defeated Kaoel Uno, a top Japanese MMA fighter who later fought BJ Penn. Another Koppo disciple even fought to a draw with a former sumo wrestler. Both seemed to rely primarily on grappling skills similar to those found in modern MMA, and the traditional elements of Koppo seen in the first festival could hardly be seen. However, in another inter-style match, against a full-contact karate champion, one Koppo fighter fought valiantly, despite rules heavily favoring karate, by skillfully applying techniques introduced by Horibe. For that reason, I believe Horibe's technical foundation should not be dismissed outright. Koppo is often the target of criticism and ridicule, but schools that call themselves traditional martial arts in particular rarely engage in matches with other schools under rules that favor the opponent, as they have too much to lose in the unlikely event of an accident. What is clear is that, more than any other traditional Japanese martial art, Koppo earnestly sought to adapt to MMA through trial and error. But after the defeats in Valetudo, public interest vanished, and the art was never re-evaluated. Instead, it became the target of ridicule and slander. Horibe later repositioned Koppo as a system of healing and self-defense, but these moves appeared ad hoc, and the media never paid serious attention again. The earlier frenzy faded into oblivion. Even after Masashi Horibe's death, Koppo continues to be practiced by a few disciples who strive to preserve its traditions while improving its techniques. Yet, its current form is no longer the ancient martial art it once claimed to be, but rather, the martial art created by Horibe. Whether ancient Koppo ever truly existed, no one knows. Here is Higashi Nakano. The Koppo dojo can be seen from the station platform. But 1,000 years later, one man called its name back to life, reviving it as the art of street fighting. Perhaps what Horibe created was not a reconstruction of history, but a reinvention of martial prowess itself. Thank you very much for watching until the end. We also share videos about lesser-known aspects of Japanese martial arts, their culture and history, so please check the links in the description below. Japan B is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres.